Welcome to Follow to Lead, where we discover how to listen for and follow God's call so that we might lead others to God. Our shared stories of inspiration from religious leaders and those active in the educational ministry of the church can help you know better how God is calling you and the role passionate Catholic education plays in spreading His message of faith, hope, and love. Now please welcome the hosts of Follow to Lead, Father Randy Sly and Kyle Pietrantonio.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Christ the teacher, teach us to listen. Teach us to do the deep listening to the sounds of our soul, waiting to hear your voice, calling to us to cast out deeper, to become fishers of men and women, shepherds of souls, to follow your will in order to lead others to the truth, beauty, and goodness only you can offer. Amen. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Welcome to Follow to Lead, a journey twice a month into the world of Catholic education and our faith, where we're exploring what it means to follow God in order to lead others to Him. I'm Father Randy Sly, your host, and today we'll be talking with Kate Sell, founder and managing partner of Mission Advancement Partners. Kate is a communications strategist with more than 25 years of experience in business and nonprofit consulting. She has a specialty in the Catholic sphere throughout the United States and around the world, and she helps Catholic organizations of all kinds to live out their unique mission more effectively with innovative evangelistic strategies, and also to help them utilize resources to most effectively serve the needs of the modern church. She's worked with a variety of organizations over the years, including for-profit companies, national nonprofits, bishops, dioceses, parishes, Newman campus ministry centers, Catholic schools, and ministry-based organizations. And so she has experience in all of the phases of organizational change and development, as well as communication strategies, and also how to message the necessary initiatives and bring them to the forefront. She's a wife and a mother of 5 children and has been a Catholic school parent, I think, for about 20 years, if I have my information correct. And so she has a deep love for Catholic education and the formation of students and also the involvement of families. And this has become not only a professional passion, but also a personal one, since she is a member of the board of directors for the Duke and Altum Schools Collaborative. And Kate and her family currently live in Atlanta, Georgia. Kate, welcome to the program.
Father Randy, thank you for having me on. I feel very blessed to be here.
Well, it's so good to see you. And for those in the audio world to listen to us as we share. And, you know, we always like to begin our program by giving people an opportunity to just tell us a little bit about yourselves. And so could you just share some of your upbringing and those types of things?
Sure. I was actually raised an evangelical Protestant, little Baptist in there as well. My husband was raised Methodist, and through a whole series of beautiful graced circumstances, he and I ended up joining the Catholic Church just before we were married, almost 26 years ago. And of course, the most important decision of our life. And it really changed the trajectory of who we are and our family. And we just feel very blessed. So we're converts, which sometimes I think can be a little too enthusiastic for people. But converts are good for the church. And I think we bring a fresh perspective. I do have 5 children, ages 25 to 12. We have been a part of Catholic education since 2005, I want to say. So that's 20 years. We have been at diocesan schools. We have been at independent private schools, schools run by religious orders. We've experienced them all as a family, and at the same time, professionally, also having worked in those spheres. And I just believe Catholic education is a huge part of what makes up the church, of handing on the faith, and actually of building Catholic culture.
So, is Atlanta your home of upbringing too? Is that where you were born and raised?
Actually, I was born and raised in Canton, Ohio, which is the hometown of Mother Angelica, if anyone makes that connection.
Yes.
And we have been in Atlanta since 2006, so almost 20 years. My kids consider themselves Southern, even though 3 of them were not born here. So we have a couple that my husband will say, well, two were born here. They can be Georgia Bulldogs. The rest have to be Ohio State Buckeyes.
Oh, oh yeah. Well, I grew up partly in Michigan, and so we have a
Ooh,
little bit of an issue with Ohio State, but that's
that state
okay.
up north, Father. I
Yeah,
don't.
I know it. So, and your your background in all of this is really why I wanted you on the program today to talk about the mission of communications in our schools. And this is a pet area for me. I have spent much of my life, at least full time or part time, in the communications area. And I know how important it is for our schools to really know how to communicate better their mission and just the values that they have as a school. Before we get to that, though, I want to find out about you and your involvement with Duke and Altum Schools Collaborative. How did you become involved with DNA or DIA rather?
Um, it was just my own personal love for Catholic education. I met a couple of the founding board members at a conference, gosh, probably in 2016. We just connected on Catholic education. And because my own family had been a part of what I call the sort of this new breed of independent Catholic schools that aren't owned by or run by a diocese or a religious order, but sort of lay owned, founded, and led. And we kind of had a meeting of minds on that. So I was just someone out there working with Catholic schools who was beginning to see how this new independent model could be very, very successful. So I just kept sticking my nose into what DIA was doing and saying, I'm happy to help with this, and I'm happy to help with that, until eventually they said, would you just join our board? So that's really how that came about. Of all the things that I do, I make time for this, for DIA, for Duke and Altum, because as a parent, I really believe Catholic education is that important, and we can't lose it in our country. We have to understand it better. We have to better acknowledge where it fits into family life and formation and even into parish life.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And the whole idea of using and seeing Catholic education as a means of formation of the student heart and even of the family is such an
Absolutely.
important area. When I was president of St. Michael High School, we used to say, and probably not new and original with us, we used to say to those that were visiting that our job was to help to get the kids to heaven. We just wanted them to go to college first.
Oh, that's a great line. That's fabulous.
Now, one of the things that Catholic educators have in common is we really need to reach out and invite people into Catholic education. It is a unique thing. Many parishes, of course, have schools connected, but even there, the draw of the parents just letting their kids go to public school without having to pay tuition and all of that is such an easy decision to make, unfortunately. And I think part of helping individuals find out what's going on is for this communications mission of the school to really take root and be a key part of what a school is doing. What do you think that people need to hear or want to hear regarding a Catholic school in their area?
Because today there's a little bit of research out there saying that millennial families, mom and dad who are millennials, maybe older Gen Zs, so you're really talking people like 45 and under. Some of them may have been raised in Catholic education. By generation, millennials are a bit more institutionally adverse. They are not as motivated to sacrifice to send their children to a Catholic school. We had prior generations who were really all about the sacrifice. You'll hear people say, we sacrifice to send our kids to school, school for 20 years.
Right.
The millennial generation doesn't necessarily feel that way. Public education has gotten better in many areas of the country, and you'll find families flocking to areas that have, quote unquote, exceptional, public school systems.
Right.
So where does Catholic education fit into that? What's the motivation? We could go into a lot of things. Parents want their kids in Catholic school because they don't want what the public school has. Then I think what really drives families today is a sense of community. Where parents don't have community, they tend to make community. If your son or daughter plays travel sports, that becomes your community. Where we can find communities in these schools. I've had parents say to me, X, Y, and Z schools are all probably equivalent. We're at this Catholic school, and we know that our tuition is really buying community for our family. Like they're aware of
Hmm.
that. So that has been a huge motivator for parents to be willing to sacrifice for Catholic education is having a sense of community with people of like values. As public school districts get larger, sometimes students feel lost in numbers. Catholic education provides a way for a child to be in band and play sports. And also, not just hand on the faith, but live within a Catholic context. We have a wide variety of Catholic schools. I think some would say some aren't real Catholic anymore, and some are super, super Catholic, and there's a whole range.
Hmm.
But it is there to serve as that community piece that brings families together in a way that they can be formed, they can build friendships, and they can really grow in their faith.
So when we're thinking about making our school known to the local community, the local area, it would seem to me that what we need to say to a family that's looking at a school is different than what we would need to say to, say, a parent that already has a child in the school, or even a stakeholder. What are some of the different ways in which we need to reach out? What are some means that we can use to reach out to these different areas? I'm assuming we can't do it all in one fell swoop.
Well, one thing to recognize, and I say this as just someone who works with nonprofits, could be a Catholic radio station, could be a school, could be a Catholic publisher. Um, they think that that's what it is. For example, a publisher, their role is books. That's true, but they're also a nonprofit. A Catholic radio station is all about radio programming, but they're a nonprofit. So the Catholic school has to see itself as really one and the same. They're about education, but they're also a nonprofit that has to raise money to stay in business, a nonprofit that has to have administration, and communications is a big piece to that. So I think what happens sometimes in Catholic schools is you have educators who are there because it's a school, right? Treating communications almost as a part of the educational realm in a sense, when really it's part of that nonprofit
Hmm.
and school. It should have a little bit of a sales value to it, meaning it's information. You want people, whether it's internal parents and students, and then external, could be prospective parents and students, but it just could be local community people. It's really about information. A parent comes to a school and they're paying, right? We just talked about how some people are reluctant to make the sacrifice. So they're sacrificing. They need to know things like the school is stable, the finances are
Hmm.
stable, the leadership is stable, there's a vision for the future, a sense of confidence in this is a great school and one that our family wants to invest in. People leave Catholic schools typically for one of two reasons, could just be a dispute over things like discipline or educational philosophy. But anecdotally, I think around the country, people would say they really leave over a sense of not getting value.
Okay.
An older legacy Catholic school, so let's say a Jesuit high school that's been there for 100 years, they have a history of value. They have a history of what people are going to get for the tuition. But if you're a newer school, really within the last 40 years, you don't have that same legacy. You don't have 50, 60 years of alumni sort of proving your product. You have to begin to communicate what makes us different than any other school around, not just as Catholic school, but what value do we bring your family? So internally, people need to be communicated with frequently. So if you're a Catholic school parent, you actually do want to hear from the school all the time. I don't think you can over communicate.
Yeah.
You have teacher parent communication, right? Here's assignments that are due, updating you on class projects, things like that. But then you have school administration communication, which should talk about what's happening at the school. Uh, the school actually my children go to, we just got a fabulous video from the head of school talking about all the updates, talking about rise in tuition. It was so well communicated and so transparent that I just thought it was and it was very personal. And because it was a video, it was personal. And I think any parent watching that would have felt a connection with the head of school. And with that, greater confidence in that leadership.
See, that
So,
brings up an interesting point. Let me
sure.
just ask you about this because I would see many schools defaulting to, oh, I'm going to send a parent letter once a month, and which is good. I mean, it's good communication. But you're bringing up using a video as a means to communicate. That to me is one of the great resources of our modern technology, is the ability, like we're doing right now. We're just sitting down in our offices, and we're able to communicate in a high quality way for all intents and purposes. And you can put that out for so easily for parents, for faculty, for whatever.
And millennials and Gen Zs in particular, Gen Zs would be people, let's say 30, let's say to age 5. It just depends on the studies you look at. They are very video driven.
Right.
So that those are the users of TikTok. Those are the ones getting content off YouTube. If they're on Instagram, it's because they're viewing the video reels. So they're very, very video driven. And video allows you to connect with someone in a personal way, meaning you're seeing their face, you're hearing the tone of their voice. You can interview people to expand people's understanding of various facets of the school. So video is a very powerful tool. I think what holds schools back from using it is a misconception that you have to have all this high-tech equipment.
Yeah.
We need a production studio, we need a video producer. You want to put out something that's good quality. However, this day and age, people are used to iPhone videos. If you're looking at reels on social media, that's just taken off someone's iPhone somewhere.
Correct. Yeah.
Certainly production values, if you have the resources to make those very high, I think that's great. But I don't necessarily think it's necessary to begin communicating in that way. And it's a way that does resonate with the age group who really are the parents today.
So what about communications for recruitment, for admissions? What kind of message is really best to be heard today?
External communications should always focus on giving people on the outside an experience of the school. So inside the school, we know what that experience is. We're living it. And the internal communications are going to reinforce that. So sometimes if a school's not in great shape, you're going to see it just because the internal communications are reflecting things are broken. To the outside, they don't know anything about your school. They may have passed it 100 times along the highway. They may have heard of the school through sports. They may have families at their parish who attend the school, but a school's a school. So what external communications needs to do is give people an experience of what it's like to be part of the community. So for example, what's an experience of a parent at the school? So maybe you're putting out video clips of some of the parents who were volunteering. They need to know, what is the classroom like? So you're going to do some videos of what's happening in the classroom. And these don't have to be videos. These could be a whole variety of things, but you want to communicate what is the experience of being a part of X, Y, or Z school. And they have to see that as something they can't get anywhere else.
It's interesting. I was just thinking as you were talking back to when I was at St. Michael, and one of the great resources you have is just parents that actually work in industries and corporations. We had one parent that volunteered their 360-degree video camera, and they brought that in with a technician that knew how to operate it, and they did a walkthrough of our whole school. So we were able to have a 360-degree video walkthrough that we could put online and use as a recruiting tool. So there's a lot of resource just within, your parents and faculty members.
And social media today really is the primary means of communication, particularly for people 45 and under. So that's something all of us just need to accept, that hard copy communications are on their way out. Even though I'm a little older, I do appreciate a hard copy of something. I'm still the parent. When they get the newsletter, they probably print it out so I can write on it and, make notes of what I need to do. But by and large, these younger parents, and these are the parents in our Catholic schools today, they communicate digitally. They communicate primarily through social media. They're getting their news and information off of X. They're not watching network television. So we need to be communicating with them, whether it's to the internal audiences or external, in a way that they get their reliable communication that they feel confident about. So a social media presence is just huge. it could be as simple as you're just constantly putting out information about what's happening at the school from a student's perspective, a teacher's perspective. It could be simple things like just news and information. The school, we're now doing this program. But social media allows you to do video. It allows you to do just, basic quotes. It could be still images. A lot of schools have subscriptions to Canva. I'm sure most people are familiar with that, right? That has just made social media graphics and posts so much easier and so much more professional looking. So honing in on social media and really building out social media channels is going to be the best bang for your buck with communications. And that is where either your current parent or your prospective parent, that's where they live.
Interestingly, it does, though, demand a different pace in communications.
It's constant.
We had a case where after prom, we didn't post pictures of the king and queen until the next morning.
And I bet they were already out there.
Oh my goodness. They were wondering why didn't the
Yes.
minute the prom was named, the prom king and queen were named, they wanted to see it up on Instagram, Facebook,
All
all
of that.
the different platforms. So you're right, but it does demand a much more prompt response on the part of schools. They can't just wait and just do it sometime later.
And
And
there's always an interesting mix with social media. So, for example, with the school, they also want to be attentive, let's say, to the liturgical calendar of the year, right? They want to put out some things during Advent, they're Advent related. They're going to put
yep.
out things during Lent that are Lent related. So that's just sort of part of the Catholic identity of the school. They're also going to want to highlight various parts of the school, right? Could be an athletic event, could be an arts event, could be academic, whatever that is. So those have to be kind of interspersed. And then you have milestones of the school itself, could be an anniversary date, a retirement, things that pertain to the culture of the school. All those need to be taken into account when you're putting together a social media content calendar. Um, a lot of schools just do what's in front of them. Oh, I've
hmm
got this information. I'm going to put it out. Honestly, that's still better than nothing. But putting some strategy behind it, social media can be a way to form families, even to think liturgically.
hmm
If they're just reading the bulletin of their parish, and I guarantee you, younger parents are not reading that bulletin, they're aware of the church calendar, but they're not. But in the experience of a Catholic school, the family can enter into that beautiful calendar of the church year round, and the school community activities can reflect that. So, in terms of how to structure your content, it does have to be kind of 24/7.
Yeah.
Um, but you have to take into account, we need to be posting evenly about some of these different topics. If you're putting together a content calendar, we call it, you're going to say, well, maybe Mondays is always a day we profile sports because that's probably what happened over the weekend. Tuesdays is news about the school, so parents have what they need for the week. Wednesday might be something that pertains to the future and vision. Thursday might focus on a feast day. So it's okay to kind of parcel it out that way.
hmm
I know some schools who say in the morning we post information on Mondays that parents need to know. By the afternoon, we're talking about what's coming up for the week. They'll post 2, 3 times a day. It just depends on your resources.
It's interesting. I'm a baby boomer, and when I was the president of the school, there are a number of times that I had to be reminded I have to communicate with people 2 and 3 generations younger than where I think. And, they go, Father, you're kind of old school here, and so, but it's important that we really take seriously how the young parents, the younger parents, are really looking at the world very differently than, say, my generation did or does.
Well, we have to realize in the church today, we have 4 to 5 distinct generations. Of course, those generations have always been in the church. The difference is we've never lived in a time where the communication modes of those generations are so distinct.
Right.
So, for example, some schools have relationship with grandparents primarily as a potential source of fundraising, right? A grandparent wanting to donate to a school. They're going to respond to a hard copy letter they get in the mail.
Right.
They're going to respond to a phone call from the advancement office. They're going to respond to attending an event physically, right? That's just how they think. So we have what we call seniors, which is probably at this point 90 and over. Boomers are really probably considered at this point almost 65 might be the youngest boomer, let's say, up to 90. I'm a Gen Xer, so Gen Xers are late 40s into mid 60s. I always say in my generation, we're the crossover. I remember a rotary dial phone. But
Right.
I also remember a world where we used a fax machine, and then we had email, and then we had pretty clunky cell phones, and then smartphones, right? We've experienced it all. Millennials have never known a world without the internet. So just think about that.
Right.
That's a whole different shift. A Gen Z has never known a world without a smartphone. That's a difference, right? So how they communicate and how they receive information is very distinct. A parish or a Catholic school might have to look at communicating across those channels. By and large, with parents, you can assume that digital communications is where they're going to be. If you're dealing with anyone 45 and over, probably hard copy is going to be best. That's just generationally. But that it can be a mix, but being conscious of those communication sources is going to be huge. A millennial parent's not going to read through a two-page letter. They're just not, but they're going to watch
Yeah.
a video. They're not going to be super content heavy. They want things in brief. They'll read an email newsletter as long as it's not long.
Now, what about the videos? Are we talking needing to keep them at like 5 to 7 minutes max, or will they welcome a longer video? What is your thinking on that?
It depends how it's being used and what its goal is. So if you're doing social media clips, you probably want 10 seconds or less of whatever happened to that sporting event. So the kid who scored the goal at the last minute, you want to show that clip, right? And the crowd going wild. If you're doing some sort of messaging to parents, I would say you probably need 15 minutes might be the max. Someone's going to sit through it. Understand that when people get a video, they immediately look at the bottom to see how long is this? How
Right.
long will this take me? Right? I think if it's under 10 minutes, they're much more likely to watch. If you go over 10 minutes, even if it's a topic of interest, they're like, because they need time for it, right? They got to set aside 15 minutes, 20 minutes of focused time. Um, Anything under a minute is always going to be watched because it's easy.
Hmm.
So maybe up to 5 minutes if it's something they're interested in. People today have very short attention spans, even for video. If it's content they want, for example, let's say there's a presentation at the school, a psychologist comes in and gives a talk about parenting. Recording that, parents will watch all of that. But the promotion of it probably should be about 20 seconds with a
Right.
click through to the full video. In a newsletter, you can have quick clips but click through to listen to the whole thing. So giving the option for long form is just fine, but you really can't use that as your lead piece.
So let's talk for a second. We've heard the importance of social media. What about websites? Do they still play a significant role for schools? And if so, are they perhaps needing to be used differently than just being there to say, hello, here we are?
So websites are vitally important because if a parent is interested in your school, the first thing they're going to do is Google you and they're going to go to your website, right? That is the first thing.
Hmm.
So the website has to serve two purposes. It has to be clear information to newcomers. It has to reflect the experience of the school. So the photos that are on there, the videos that are on there. If a parent wants to know about the ethos of a school, they're going to go to the website. Even how sometimes if a website's a little janky, parents are going to go, this must be reflective of the school. If the
Uh-huh.
website is, well run and beautiful and readable and really reflects the beautiful, positive things happening at the school, parents are going to want more information. From there, a prospective parent or student, it needs to be very clear where they go. Interested in learning more, click here. And there should be a
Right.
whole section of the website that really talks about the things of the school that a prospective parent would want, in addition to a next step. Where I think school websites fall short is there's no next step. It's just flat information. Now, the flip side of that is if you give them an opportunity to take a next step, someone has to be on the other end of that email to answer it. People are very hesitant to contact an institution via a website because the assumption is it goes into a black hole. There needs to be a real solid mechanism in place that said this email, once it goes out, it goes to this person. She's going to do this with it. She passes it on. And you have to get back to people within 48 hours. I think after 48 hours, the momentum is
Uh-huh.
lost. In terms of what does it need to be for parents, the internal community, it's got to be information. Once a family's out of school, they're probably not coming back to that website for anything except information, sports schedules, school supplies list, bios of teachers, information about prom, dress code. They're coming for information. And if they have to dig for that information, they're going to be really frustrated. So the pathway to parent information needs to be clear. You also can't ask them to go through 15 steps to get there,
Right.
page upon page upon page.
Yeah.
It's almost better to have many landing pages with quick information than one button with layers of pages under it. So a current school parent wants information. A prospective parent wants to experience the school, and all of that is done through the website.
And both of those are possible on the same site. You can have a parent portal and
Absolutely.
with easy navigation for parents, and even take them to places where maybe it's protected a little bit more in
Absolutely.
terms of the information. The thing I like that you bring out too is, and I think sometimes we're guilty of this, is we don't give people an opportunity for a call to action.
That's right.
That,
It's just flat information.
yeah, if you just give them information, then what do they do with that? Where do they go? But to just have that, you know, a contact, how, and it leads you to someplace where someone is going to be in touch with you. That to me is a really key idea.
And what will be most effective within that? I think it's okay to respond to someone in an email to say, we got your email, we acknowledge it, we would love to answer questions, but very quickly you've got to turn that into real human interaction. This is in
Right.
terms of admissions and recruitment, right? It's got to come off of email. And we want to invite you to the school. We want to give you a tour. We want to meet with you. You need to turn that into a personal experience and a physical experience of the school.
Mhm.
I've seen exceptions where families moving into an area, they live in Michigan and they're moving to the Buckeye State of Ohio, right? And they may not be able to come and see the school, but they're in that case, go to phone calls, right? They
Right.
need to talk to someone. I would even recommend Zoom. I wouldn't, if at all, because this generation needs to see faces, right? They're used to video. Set up
Yeah.
a Zoom. We'd love to meet your family. We know you haven't moved yet. We love, and we'll have people on our end for you to meet. So it's giving people an experience of the school. You want prospective parents and students to sort of sample your school and think, there's nothing else like this out there. There's nothing else in the area. And everyone comes with a different value proposition. Could be sports, could be academics, could be whatever. They should leave any experience with your school as this is something really unique that I haven't seen anywhere else. And websites can do that, video can do that. But even if we're asking people for next step on a website, we have to make it human. Same in social media. Nothing wrong with saying click through, to get the full video or to click through to our resource page, click through to be taken to our admission information. If you're promoting an open house, right, an admissions open house in January, it might be a static post, could have a video in it. Always click through to something else. Sign up to attend our open house. Click here. You can do that right off a social media post. The other thing is you can use social media to drive people to that website.
Yeah.
You don't want people just to continually see social media. In social media, you want to call them to an action. We invite you to come to our championship game, friends and neighbors of whatever community, come out and support your Catholic school. You want people on campus, and you want people to take a next step, whatever that's going to be.
One of the staples that has been around for quite a while is the email newsletter, constant contact, flock note, those types of mechanisms. Do they still have value for young families today, or how would you suggest that those could still be utilized?
Newsletters are important in the sense that they give a lot of information in one space. So the newsletter is going to, for example, our kids' school sends out a newsletter every week, and it's just highlights. It's not long articles. You could click through maybe to something longer, but they even cover first what's happening in the school. Then they cover what's happening in the Catholic community, might even be with neighboring parishes, and then they highlight alumni. People love alumni highlights.
Yeah.
And alumni want to be featured on there. And alumni highlights show parents and prospective parents, this is the product you get from our school. Many schools will, if there's a prospective family, would say, would you like to join our email list? Right. And they're just starting to get the school's communications. Half of it may not apply to them, but you learn a lot about a school based on email newsletter. The reason the newsletter is still important is because people will keep it in the inbox. They're going to refer to it. So if I get an email about a field trip, I'm going to keep that email and I'm going to go back to it because it has that information in it. A newsletter may have 2 or 3 different dates, right? We're going to have commencement on this date. We're going to have the track and field event. They're going to keep the email because it's their source of information. They don't want to go back to their social media feed and find that post they saw, right? A lot of times that's almost impossible to do. So the email is important for news and information. And people do, parents in particular, open them and they do use them as a resource. I would continue doing that. What we learned over COVID, a couple of schools I've worked with that simply weren't on top of the ball of removing, let's say a family had left the school or graduated to a different school and they're still getting your emails,
Hmm.
thinking, you don't even know I've left. So keeping our records, keeping our database straight and using it as an information source is going to be key.
And the videos, again, are very key to newsletters as well as photos and just even some clip art or something to call their attention to these stories, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And people today, you want your social media, any communications to look professional. That was harder to do 10 years ago. You may have needed a graphic designer, but with something like Canva or similar resources out there, most database platforms today have kind of a constant contact feature built right in, right? You're not having to get a separate subscription for that.
Right.
Um, those go a long way in just keeping things up to date. Um, People respond to homemade. A lot of websites have tons of homemade videos, right? People are fine with homemade. You just don't want to go so homemade on everything that it looks unprofessional or it makes you look kind of rinky dink. So homemade's great if you're covering an event, but other times homemade may not give that same impression. It may think this is the best they can do. So you just have to kind of gauge that. Student produced videos are always a good idea. People are willing to give students a lot of latitude. It could be
Yeah. Yeah.
unprofessional, but it was a student. Whatever it is, it needs to be clear in messaging and it needs to look professional. With platforms like Canva, it's very, very easy to do in a way it wasn't 10 years ago.
One of the things that really is, again, something for younger generations than, say, for my generation, is the way that we approach content
Hmm.
on websites. Nowadays, people skim.
Correct.
And so, and even if you look at newspapers today, you'll see things that my English teacher would basically roll over in her grave to see one sentence paragraphs, for
Yes.
example. But it's important that we keep things very straight and simple and tight. Would that be correct?
Yes, and in some cases, you just need to give more information. That's where you have a click through. Like, let's take the newsletter. It should have all the headlines. But to get the full story, the headline and maybe 3 lines of copy should give everyone the basic information they need. If they want more detail, they're going to click through. I
Hmm.
think even on a website, you don't want too many pages that people have to sift through. A lot of times, if there's more information, they'll have a PDF download. To read the head of school's full address, click here and it's a download. It doesn't occupy the website. It doesn't pull.
Hmm.
People don't want to sit on that website and read the head of school's address, but they might download a PDF and read it at their leisure. You want to keep, back in the day, I guess 20 years ago, 25 years ago, websites were about information.
Right.
You want to get information. Now it's really a brochure. A brochure, the highlights. A school website's different in the sense that you do need information available to parents, and it needs to be easy to find. Prospective parents need information about what the school is, but no one needs 3 landing pages worth of content they have to read through. Everything should be headline driven. For better or for worse, our world is headline driven. And
Yep.
that's what made platforms like X so successful because you didn't have to get into a whole long thing. You can scan your news feed and it's headline, 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 right? We have to look at our communications that way. Younger generations don't have the attention span. They just don't. And we have to say things not just with less words, but more impact, right? Don't take out the fluff. These generations don't want the fluff. They just want the information. It's what
Hmm.
I call the bullet point culture. They just want the bullet points. Give me the highlights.
Yeah.
And we do
Yeah.
need to look at our communications that way.
Yeah. I was thinking of a line from a movie where Jack Nicholson said, "I'm drowning here, and you're describing the water." And uh, that's, I
That's
think,
right.
yeah, we can be. We don't need the flowery language and all of the additional. We just need to get to the information.
It's kind of, we used to be taught how to do executive summaries. Well, why is there an executive summary? Because not everyone wants to read the whole report. So
Hmm.
we kind of live in an executive summary kind of world. What are the highlights? What are the most important pieces of information? If I want more, maybe I would like the ability to click through and get the whole document and pull out the pieces I want. But we're really talking about the highlights, and we need to think in terms of quick bullet points, executive summaries. If you want to read the whole research report, that's a download. And people who want that will download it and they'll read it at their leisure.
Now, as we've been talking about the communications mission, I'm sure there are administrators and teachers out there going, this really sounds great. We don't have anybody like that. We don't have anybody to do it. We don't have a communications director. That is a luxury we can't afford. We're on a limited budget. What are some takeaways that you could offer to some administrators, educators that would kind of give them a strategy and what to do if they don't have somebody that could be just dedicated to this mission?
I think it depends on the type of school it is. So, for example, a K to 8 parochial school that's been there for 75 years. Really, what you do with communications in terms of even recruitment is not going to be as important because primarily families are coming to you because you're a legacy school. These are legacy families. They probably attend the parish. There might even be a waiting list to get in the parochial school. You don't have to sell yourself. So, really, once a family's engaged, you want to communicate with them, whether it's a newsletter or whatever. But I don't think it takes the same level of external communication.
Mhm.
If you're a high school, high schools have to communicate because simply that's what high school's about. It's about an experience. If you don't have the resources, um, I would highly recommend you find the resources. Apply for a grant. Maybe there's a parent who would fund something. You can get people to do social media 5 hours a week. Pay them $35 an hour. It's not expensive. If you're a high school, even a legacy high school, you've got to communicate. If you're not a legacy school, maybe you've been around 30, 40 years, people know you, but there might be some Catholics in the community that don't know you. Communications has to go to kind of the top of the priority list. If you're not communicating with prospective audiences, you're probably not going to have a school. Educators tend to put money into education, which, of course, as a school, you've got to do that. But in order for the school to exist, it needs kids and families. And communications is just a must today. We're just in a different age and time. If you don't have those resources, I wish I could tell you, well, it's okay, wait till you do. My advice would be rearrange things,
Yeah.
eliminate their position in order to elevate this. Marketing and communications in any organization is always the first thing to go. And in this day and age, you could do that 20 years ago. You can't do it now. Once you fall off the social media radar, let's say, you've fallen off in people's worlds. You simply can't afford not to be on there. Maybe it's finding a parent who's willing to take it on as a volunteer position.
Yeah.
May not be the most professional thing in the world, but you'd be surprised. There's some pretty savvy parents out there. But you really can't put communications as a second priority. It's got to be front and center. You might do it at varying levels. It might be, you're posting 3 times a week. That's better than nothing. But you have to make it a priority in the school. Simply, you won't survive without it.
And it's interesting. Sometimes you can find a student at a university or college that's a marketing communications major that would just like to have a little part-time gig or something, and they are passionate about their Catholic faith. And this is a way to kind of have the best of both worlds. And you can do it that way.
And same with someone at your parish, right?
Yeah.
There might be someone at the parish who is not involved with the school, but they have some time. If you don't have the resources, go find them.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
volunteer resources are fine, but someone has to monitor that person, right? To make sure, are you on brand? Are you using the language our school uses? Was that an appropriate photo? What I found maybe with some younger people, college interns, et cetera, they know what to do, but they don't have yet the experience to understand the sensibilities of what they're putting out. Um, so it would need some monitoring. So there is really no situation where the school could just say, "Oh, parent or intern X, just go and do that." It's still going to have the oversight of
yeah.
someone to guide it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. One of the things I knew that we did right away as we opened the school in 2017 is we had branding guidelines that were already in place in written form so that you always knew this is the logo you're going to use, this is the type, your font you're going to use, et cetera, so that everybody knew that they were getting something from our school. And that really makes a huge difference.
The consistency in a branding guide actually speaks a lot more than people realize. I've worked with schools and other organizations in the church that have a bazillion versions of their logo.
Yeah.
I mean, and depending on who's in charge, it changes again. The colors might be kind of consistent, but the exact Pantone color might not be. It actually speaks volumes about your institution, what a school, a parish, whatever that's going to be. Communications today is the way people live their life. Pretty much people are on that phone all the time.
Yeah.
As they're seeing those inconsistencies, it's just going to make you look unprofessional. I know plenty of places that don't have branding guides. I would highly, highly suggest, even if it's just a group of people getting together at the school. One thing that's very common is a million different slogans.
Yep. Yep.
Such and such school. Okay, that slogan can't change by who's writing something. What are really you need one, I think. I could see in different circumstances maybe having a couple others if they relate to sports or something. But those have to be consistent. A font has to be consistent. The colors. The logo can have different versions, one that's good in black and white, one that's in color, one that's larger, one that's smaller, but it has to be the same logo. You can absolutely have sub logos, like the athletic department could have a sub logo that
Yep.
is fully the school's logo, but specific to the sports program. A student organization could do the same, but it all has to tie back into that brand.
Yeah, we had a shield, and we also had a logo for the Guardians. And it's interesting too. One of the areas where we had the greatest trouble keeping everything in line was in T-shirts.
You know why
Everybody,
that is? Because t-shirts are created by any random person. It could be a
exactly.
student, teacher, a project, and they're just putting out something they think is fun and looks nice. So there do need to be some protocols within a school community of getting things approved, right? Is this within our brand? Is this quality?
And the thing is, when we tell the kids, you're a walking billboard for the school
Yes, you are.
when you're out there. So, well, Kate, one last question for you, and our audience primarily is made up of administrators and teachers. You've worked in school settings, you worked with dioceses, and have done so many things. What would you like to say to those who are in the trenches right now in Catholic schools?
First, I'd want to say thank you. I say that as a parent. Catholic education has absolutely changed our family. Even though my husband and I are very keen on the fact that we are the primary educators of our child, but Catholic schools have provided us a community that's educating our child, not just academically, but in their social formation, through sports, through all those different things. Today's Catholic schools are kind of in the headwinds. I think there's kind of two distinctions. There are legacy schools that just have more resources. They've been around forever. Their enrollment just kind of is what it is because everyone wants to go there because their grandpa went there. But if you're not one of those, you are in the trenches. And sometimes it can feel like you're just not making a difference. Similar to a bishop I was with recently, we were just having a normal conversation. He said, it's just so refreshing just to have a conversation. I said, well, Bishop, why? He said, the only time a bishop hears from people is when they're mad about something.
Yeah.
And I think Catholic schools can feel the same way. The only time you're contacting that principal, the only time you're contacting that teacher, the dean, whoever, is when you're upset about something. That's how they feel. But they're not getting notes of Thank you so much for you're doing X, Y, and Z. I mean, I had a situation last week. One of our kids had a disciplinary issue. It wasn't huge, but the principal emailed me and she said, well, here's our protocol. Here's what we're going to do, X, Y, and Z. And I replied to her and I said, thank you. I said, this is worth our financial investment. Like she really had kind of laid out a formation program for him in a few areas. And I just wanted to affirm her. I'm like, this is excellent. Thank you for caring for our child. Thank you for seeing them as a person. Um, I would also say it's worth it. I think sometimes you're like, are we making any traction? It's worth
Hmm.
it. We have 5 children. Our two oldest are now seminarians. That had everything to do with the Catholic school they went to. Just
Wow.
everything. If they have in the end, if they do get ordained, that's between them and God, if that vocation is really there. But the fact that they would even think about a vocation, the fact
Hmm.
that they had a relationship with Christ that was strong enough to even want such a thing, absolutely came from our Catholic school and the Catholic community, probably much more so than our parish. So it's worth it. The world needs what Catholic schools can produce. You're not going to get 100% of that product all the time. I've even heard someone say, if you churn out 15% of what you think your ideal student is, you would just be off the charts in terms of
Yeah.
success, right? It makes a difference in families. The other thing I would say is don't focus just on students, focus on families. Families are likely not to go to the parish. Honestly, they might drop a kid off, they might be attending mass, they come and go quickly. But any parent is always invested where their child goes to school. I'll tell priests, Father, if you want more people in your pews, if you want more people in OCIA, you need to dedicate time at the school. Be present to them. Uh, Befriend the parents. The number one reason a young man will consider discerning the priesthood is not an invitation, it's his relationship with another priest.
Hmm.
Invest in a school. Schools need to see their job as forming families. Most millennial and Gen Z parents don't have a lot of formation in the faith. They're institutionally adverse, but they'll come to anything at their kids' school. I know there's a trend, it's slow, but it's happening of even K-8 schools having campus ministers who
Yeah.
are there specifically to provide opportunities for family formation. Don't let that opportunity slip by. It is a place where families can be formed. So thank you, and it's worth it. And don't forget the family.
Well, Kate Sell, thank you so much for today. This has been wonderful to just share about communications, but to share, just to hear your heart for the mission of Catholic education today. And I know that Mission Advancement Partners is where your professional heart is. If people want to know more about what you're doing there, where can they go?
Sure, just go to our website, which is really just a brochure. You're not going to find a lot of content. Mission Advancement Partners with an S, missionadvancementpartners.com. We're real brief on there, but it's just to give a sampling. But we love Catholic schools. We love working with Catholic schools. We love the strategic planning, the marketing support. We want schools to be successful. Our culture, our world, and our church need successful Catholic schools. It's not really an option. We've got to have,
Amen.
and they've got to be strong.
Yeah.
And particularly in places where vouchers are now in play,
Hmm.
states like Indiana and Ohio, where you can make quite a bit of money and get full vouchers to send your child to a school. So some Catholic schools, it's revitalizing them, but you might be getting a lot of secular parents. Don't let that opportunity pass by. Form that family, right?
Yeah.
Don't just focus on the academics. Use this as a way to evangelize.
We've seen that happen with the Missouri Scholars Program here in our state.
Yes.
And we've seen it's revitalized, especially a number of our schools in a vital way. Kate, again, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you, Father. It was great to be here.
And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow our podcast. And be sure to leave a comment to encourage us toward future programming. May Almighty God bless you.
We'd like to thank you for joining us on this episode of Follow to Lead, a production of the Duke and Altum Schools Collaborative. To learn more about finding your own path in your journey of faith, or for more information on what we discussed in today's episode, you are invited to follow us on social media and visit us on the web at diaschools.org. To provide a one-time donation or monthly pledge, please visit our website, Your gift will aid us in providing up-to-date information, additional resources, and other support on how to take Catholic education to a higher level. We look forward to helping you follow God's call to lead others to God right here on Follow to Lead.